Today, we're going to see which way each state trended on a presidential level between 1992 and 2024. Last week, we took a look at the shifts. Today, we're going to compare those shifts to the national shift to get the trends. There is going to be a map at the end, but first we've got to get the usual background information. So real quick, in 1992, Bill Clinton won with 370 electoral votes. He carried 32 states plus D.C., and his national popular vote share was 43%. George H.W. Bush, the Republican, got in second place with 168 electoral votes. He carried 18 states and he got 37.5% of the popular vote. And we've got a strong third-party challenger, Ross Perot. He didn't carry any states or get any electoral votes, but he did pull in 18.9% of the popular vote. Then in 2024, we've got Donald Trump winning it with 312. He carried 31 states plus Maine second, and his share of the vote was 49.8%. Kamala Harris got 226. She carried 19 states plus D.C. and Nebraska second, and she finished with 48.3%. So that is going to take us into the spreadsheet. And on the left, we've got the states. Then we've got the 92 Clinton vote. Then it's the 92 Bush vote. Then it's the 24 Harris vote, the 24 Trump vote. Then the margins in 1992 shaded accordingly. Then the same for 2024. Then we've got last week's column. It's the swing in each state. That's the difference between the two previous columns. And then finally, all the way on the right, we've got the trend. That's going to compare the shift in each state to the national shift. And these right two columns also have shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. The lightest colors are going to be under 5%. Now, to get our baseline, we've got to find out the national shift. So let's go through it. We've got Bill Clinton in 92 getting 43%. George H.W. Bush got 37.5%. In 24, Kamala Harris got 48.3%. Donald Trump got 49.8%. In 1992, the margin for Bill Clinton was 5.5%. For Trump in 24, it was 1.5%. If we take that 5.5% away from Clinton and then add another 1.5% toward Trump, that comes out to a 7% national popular vote swing toward Trump and the Republicans. So that's what we're going to compare all the individual states to. Any state that swung more than 7 is going to have a red trend, and anything under 7 is going to be a blue trend. Now, throughout all this data, keep in mind Ross Perot. He pulled in more than 10% in almost every state, and in a bunch he also got more than 20%. And because 2024 did not have a super strong third-party candidate, most of that vote from Perot is going to go back into one of the two major parties. So let's go through these states. First, we've got Alabama. In 1992, Bill Clinton got 40.9%. George H.W. Bush won it with 47.7%. 32 years later, Kamala Harris sank down to 34.1%. Donald Trump bumped it up to 64.6%. That margin in 92 was 6.8% for Bush. In 24, it was all the way up to 30.5% for Trump. That means the state swung 23.7% toward Trump, but the country already moved it 7% in that direction. So 23.7 minus 7 comes out to a 16.7% red trend for Alabama. So now we can quickly go through the rest of these states. Alaska swung toward Trump by 3.9, but that was less than 7%. So that means they had a blue trend of 3.1. Arizona was similar at 3.4. Arkansas was Clinton's home state in 92, and since then, it trended a massive 41.3 toward the Republicans. Now we've got some blue trends. We've got California at 13.8. The exact same thing in Colorado, 13.8. Connecticut just above that at 15.1. Delaware just below that at 13.5. Florida trended redder at 4.2. Georgia had the exact same amount in the opposite direction at 4.2. Hawaii had a big blue trend at 18.7. Idaho went toward the GOP by 15.9. Illinois back toward the left by 3.6. Then we've got some red trends. We've got Indiana at 5.8, Iowa 12.2, Kansas and even 4, Kentucky a significant 26.9, and Louisiana 19.6. Then in Maine, that trended bluer at 5.5. Maryland way more than that at 21.3, and Massachusetts is in between at 13.7. Then more red trends. We've got Michigan 1.8. Minnesota had the smallest trend out of all the states. It got 0.4 redder. Then Mississippi at an even 7. Missouri is up there at 21.6, and Montana a little less at 15.4. Now we've got blue trends. We've got Nebraska at 3.6, Nevada 1.2, New Hampshire 8.7, New Jersey 10.5, New Mexico 4.4, New York 3.7, and North Carolina 4.5. Back toward the right, we've got North Dakota 17.5, Ohio 5.8, and Oklahoma 18.6. Oregon got bluer at 11.3. Pennsylvania got redder by 3.8. Rhode Island trended bluer by 2.7. South Carolina had the same 2.7 toward the Republicans. Also in that direction, it's South Dakota at 18.6, Tennessee 27.4, and Texas a milder 3.2. Now we've got some trends toward the Democrats. It's Utah at 4.5. Then the biggest blue trend out of all the states, Vermont 22.8, Virginia 17.1, and Washington 13.8. Then it's the biggest trend period out of every state. It's West Virginia at an extreme 47.9 toward the GOP. Wisconsin trended a little bit bluer at 1.8, and Wyoming a massive red trend at 33.2. Then we've got Washington, D.C. that hit a blue trend of 15.3. So those are all the states and all of the trends. Then, as always, we're going to take all of this data, we're going to put it on a map. Here it is. We've got similar shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. This time, the very lightest colors are going to be under 1% trends. There's only one of them this time, and it's Minnesota. So with all that said, what are the takeaways from any of these trends? Well, as I've said in the past, it might be more difficult to compare these two elections because of Ross Perot. Both the Democrats and Republicans had their vote share reduced back in '92. There's also a good chunk of people that think Ross Perot prevented George H.W. Bush from winning re-election. He was not an insignificant factor in that election, but we're never going to know for sure exactly what would have happened. But what is for sure is the country shifted 7% nationally. And if you go by the modern electoral votes, more of the states were unable to keep up with that 7% swing. It's close, but the Democrats come out ahead at 289, Republicans at 249. Dems do most of their damage in the Southwest and the West Coast. Then it's going to be the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. There's also a little bit more scattered, such as Wisconsin and Illinois. But not all of those trends are double digits. A bunch of them are lighter and under 5%. Republicans did the best in other places. The Upper Great Plains, the Midwest, and much of the South. Bill Clinton had a lot of Southern appeal in both of his runs. He even carried his home state of Arkansas, which seems completely foreign today because that state is deep red. So you could point out a bunch of other states and talk about their political trajectory over these decades. But maybe the more fascinating thing is how some of these states did not have much movement whatsoever. Minnesota is the winner for the least amount of trend, but all the states shaded lightly really didn't move that much over these 30 plus years. Back in '92, there were different issues, different demographics, voting coalitions in different parts of the country. It would have been extremely difficult back then to predict the modern electoral map, but sometimes there's not any fantastic takeaways, and it's just fun to see where the movement was. So that's it. Those are the trends between '92 and '24. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the trends in any of these states? Which ones surprised you the most, and how much of an impact do you think Perot had on these trends? Let me know what you think down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.